Tampa Bay's CW44 News at 10 is presented by the law firm of Catania and Catania, putting families first for over 28 years.
You're watching Tampa Bay's CW44 News at 10.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jim Barry. Coming up on the CW44 News at 10, closer to a vaccine. Some of the nation's top doctors speak with CW44 on how lab testing is going and when a vaccine might be available. Also, emotional tributes for late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Inside today's services, while the controversial fight to fill her seat rages on. And criminal charges in the Breonna Taylor case. Why only one officer is charged and not for her death. Those stories coming up. But first, let's check in with meteorologist Jennifer Correa with the first look at our forecast. Jennifer?
Hey there, Jim, and good evening, Tampa. We did have another nice start today. These were the lows early this morning in the 60s for Crystal River at 64. Brooksville started off the day at 67, and the mid 60s even out in some of the inland areas. In the low 70s closer to the coast, and low for Tampa was 71. So it was in the 60s, but it did feel nice out there. Then things warmed up. 89 was the high today. The normal is 88, but it still felt rather comfortable. It was a beautiful day. The humidity was still low, but changes are on the way, and that involves higher humidity. So it's going to start to feel more like summer again for us as we head towards the second half of the week and into the weekend. Here's a look at current conditions across the area. So notice that the wind is very light, mainly out of the east, but now starting to turn more out of the southeast, and that's helping to bring back a little bit of heat and humidity as well. But we're going to keep things nice and quiet through tonight with partly cloudy to mostly clear skies out there. Tomorrow morning we'll wake up a little milder in the low to mid 70s, and then tomorrow's forecast high getting to 90 degrees out there. And even the lower 90s for some inland areas. So I do expect it to be warming on up, not too much as we head towards the weekend, because we do expect rain to return, especially by Friday. So moisture and humidity goes up starting tomorrow. The return of afternoon thunderstorms, especially by Friday. And also, are we quiet in the tropics? Well, I am happy to say that it feels like a long time I've said this, but I'm happy to say it now. No tropical development is expected, at least in the next 5 days. So we're going to keep things quiet out there. We'll have a closer look at our forecast coming up. Jim?
All right, Jennifer, thank you. Tampa Bay continues to mask up and social distance with no end in sight. Tonight, top doctors from around the country are speaking to CW44 News about the progress on a COVID-19 vaccine. CW44's Andrea Alvarez has the story.
Over the last few weeks, health officials say there have been positive signs from pharmaceutical companies indicating potential vaccine candidates. Doctors at the forefront of testing tell me antibody testing is critical.
So today what we learned is there are 4 vaccines that have entered the last stage of testing prior to approval.
America's top U.S. doctors explain that health science is on the brink of developing a COVID-19 vaccine.
The 4th one just entered that this morning.
Dr. Deepak Nath, president of lab diagnostics at Siemens Healthineers in Chicago, says there are several more steps in the process to examine the potential vaccine.
So we are hopeful that these will progress through this final stage of testing, and that the data will demonstrate that the vaccines are safe and effective. So we're hopeful that this will happen sooner rather than later.
Dr. Glenn Hansen with the Hennepin County Medical Center in Minnesota explains why antibody testing is so important for that future vaccine.
So whether it's a swab test or an antibody test, tests need to be performed. Antibody tests provide us a way to quickly assess the epidemiology of the virus, where it's going, where it's been. In order for a vaccine to be effective, it has to have the right type of antibody response, but also at a level that is high enough to be protective.
He says it's specifically important to know what the prevalence rates are in different communities, and that we need to test for that in order to find it.
It's going to tell us people's exposure. We know for a fact that 90% of the population has not been exposed to the virus. We actually know that because of antibody testing.
But this isn't where the role of antibodies stops.
Because because we will need tools to measure how much of an immune system was stimulated, which is a good thing, in response to receiving the vaccine.
Although there is no set date on a COVID-19 vaccine right now, it's projected to be ready come the latter part of this year or early 2021.
There's a lot of information that's developing. Changes happen by the day. It's important for your viewers to be able to get the latest information.
Dr. Nath says just today, guidance was issued by the FDA to let health officials across the country know what they plan to look for in terms of that final dose of vaccine. Make sure to stick with the CW44 News at 10 for updates. I'm Andrea Alvarez, CW44 News at 10.
The Florida Department of Health reports 202 new deaths in the state. More than 2,900 people from the Tampa Bay area have died since the pandemic began. The state reports nearly 2,600 new cases. Florida now tops 690,000 cases of COVID-19. Members of the White House Coronavirus Task Force testify on Capitol Hill. Meanwhile, Johnson & Johnson announces the beginning of a phase 3 clinical trial of its one-dose coronavirus vaccine. Danya Backus has more on that. And right now, 20 states plus Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico are reporting spikes in new coronavirus cases, showing a dramatic increase from just 2 weeks ago. Well, late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg returned to the Supreme Court today for the final time. Thousands of people are expected to pay their respects over 3 days of public remembrances. Ginsburg's casket arrived at the Supreme Court this morning for a private ceremony ahead of the public viewing. A large crowd gathered outside as the hearse drove by. Mourners held up signs and comforted each other. Ginsburg will be the first woman and the first Jewish person to lie in state in the U.S. Capitol. Ginsburg's death leaves a vacancy on the court and has ignited a political battle less than 6 weeks before Election Day. Deborah Alfarone has more on this from the Supreme Court. President Donald Trump is expected to travel to the Supreme Court tomorrow to pay his respects to the late Justice Ginsburg. Still to come on the CW44 News at 10 o'clock tonight, an officer involved in the shooting death of Breonna Taylor is facing criminal charges, but we'll tell you why people are still outraged. Plus, a surprising change. Many stores have reopened, but Americans are still not heading out to shop. How the pandemic is changing buying habits when we come back.
First Weather is brought to you by Famous Tate, famous for great deals since 1954.
Only one of the police officers involved in the shooting of Breonna Taylor will face criminal charges. The case in Louisville has stirred nationwide calls for justice. Sharika Nuckin has more on the announcement from a Kentucky grand jury. The charges against Hankerson could have him facing up to 5 years in prison for each count. Today, Louisville's mayor imposed a 9 p.m. curfew in hopes of keeping that city calm. September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and this year an Oregon father is turning heartbreak into an opportunity to raise money and spread awareness. Doug Peterson is riding his bicycle from Canada to Mexico in honor of those impacted by suicide. 5 years ago, Peterson's son took his own life. From Washington State through his home state of Oregon and on to California, he is connected with others who have lost loved ones.
When you're suffering from depression, you tend to kind of suffer in silence. And you don't ask, and there's a stigma, and we got to get rid of that stigma. Ask the question, are you okay? No, I'm not okay. Okay, let's get you some help.
Pair of Thieves sponsored Doug's ride. The California-based company makes socks with the words "Never Alone" and the suicide prevention hotline on the toe. A CDC study finds more than 48,000 people died by suicide in the U.S. in 2018. Researchers also say suicide has increased 35% since 1999 and is now the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. Well, online shopping got a big boost during the pandemic, and new data shows that is yet to change. Elise Preston reports. Well, the countdown to Amazon Prime Day is on. This year's date reportedly is going to be October 13th. Now, the annual sale typically happens in July, but of course was delayed due to the coronavirus pandemic. It's unclear how long the sale will last. Last year, Amazon extended Prime Day to 48 hours, up from 36 the year before. SPCA Tampa Bay says nearly all of the dogs rescued from Louisiana from Hurricane Laura have been adopted. The organization says 21 of 30 dogs displaced have now been placed in forever homes across the Tampa Bay area. SPCA Tampa Bay also says that since that first rescue, 78 dogs and cats have entered their shelter due to the impact from both Hurricanes Laura and Hurricane Sally. They'll go through medical evaluations and treatment before they are cleared for adoption. Well, still ahead tonight, Elton John announces his return to the stage. Details on when he's scheduled to resume his farewell tour right here in Tampa when we return. Welcome back. Delta airline pilots get some encouraging news. They will keep their jobs for at least another month. Delta is delaying its decision to furlough nearly 2,000 pilots until November 1st. That allows more time to hammer out cost-cutting measures with the pilots' union. Delta had planned to furlough thousands of pilots as early as October 1st, when a government ban on airline furloughs and layoffs is lifted. Now let's check back in with meteorologist Jennifer Correa with an extended look at our forecast. Jennifer.
Hey there, Jim. And all right, Tampa, so we are going to warm up in the upcoming days, and the humidity is returning as well. So it will definitely feel like summer as we head into the weekend. Right now, temperatures are in the upper 70s. In fact, some areas actually still holding on to the low 80s. So already a bit milder out there, but still overall a quiet, nice night. The winds are light, mainly out of the east, but turning more out of the southeast as this high begins to push away over the Atlantic, and we start to get this warm front a little closer to us. By the way, all this rain pushing through up into Tennessee and across over the Mississippi Valley, that is remnants of Beta. So all that rain will stay to the north of us, but because that warm front is going to be coming in from the Gulf, that's going to bring back a surge of moisture, especially in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere. So here's a look at the moisture availability forecast. Tropical moisture comes in out ahead of that warm front from the Gulf. So very humid conditions for us as we head into Friday and even through the weekend. Now, rain chances, I think, will be the highest Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Not too bad. Typical pop-up afternoon thunderstorms for the weekend. But then as we head into Monday and Tuesday, a better chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms as a front comes into our area. It is expected to come into the area Tuesday. So rain chances will go up. It will feel very warm out ahead of the front and humid. And then a piece of dry air comes in, but another front sets up behind that. So basically a series of fronts into next week. Overnight, tonight's low 72, a bit milder with a few clouds out there. And then as we head into tomorrow, I can't rule out an isolated thunderstorm, but for the most part, I'm still going to keep the rain chances down to about 20 to 30%. So overall, we're going to get lots of sunshine, a couple of those cumulus clouds rolling on through, winds turning out of the southeast at 10 miles per hour. And that's why we could get a thunderstorm because of daytime heating. Now, highs tomorrow will be going up slightly, and then as we head into the Friday and the weekend as well. Here's a look at the marine conditions for tomorrow. Honestly, a beautiful day to head out on the water. Moderate chop out there, and the seas 2 to 3 feet. The winds pretty light, could be breezy at times, but not too bad out there. So no advisory for us boaters who are going out tomorrow. And here's a look at the 7-day forecast. So basically lots of sunshine tomorrow, highs reaching 90 degrees, but then Friday a better chance for showers and thunderstorms with that surge of tropical moisture. So keeping the temperatures in the upper 80s, very humid through the weekend, and then could get quite stormy Monday, Tuesday as that front comes through, a little drier by midweek next week.
Jennifer, thank you very much. Finally tonight, Elton John is coming back to the Amalie Arena for his global farewell Yellow Brick Road tour. The pandemic forced the show off the road back in 2018. Farewell tour was slated for 3 years, spanning 5 continents and more than 350 dates. There's plenty of time to plan ahead. The North American leg kicks off in January of 2022 in New Orleans. Elton John is scheduled to appear in Tampa on April of 2022. So mark that date down. That's all for tonight. Thank you for joining us here on CW44, and catch us weeknights here at 10 o'clock. I'm Jim Barry. Have a good night.